Have you ever wondered if you're making a difference in this messed up world? Or if it's all a waste of time? You know, this past week I decided I needed to fix our microwave. It's a little different than this one. When I would open up our door, not only would the light come on, but the fan was still running. Now, we determined that it was just the fan, that microwaves were not going throughout the house, but I realized I needed to fix the microwave. So here's what I did. I got on some YouTube sites and I was able to learn how to diagnose the problem, and sure enough, I did. I found that I needed a little tiny part in order to fix our microwave. So I immediately did a search and I tried to find the part locally so that I could easily go pick it up and bring it back and fix it. Well, that didn't work. And then I wanted to order a generic part so that I could get it right away and I wouldn't have to wait. But I was concluding that a generic part would not work. And then I finally called someone and they said, no, we're going to have to ship it to your house. Here was the problem. The shipping was more than the part was worth, and I was going to have to wait for over a week in order to fix the problem. However, on one particular YouTube site, he was explaining how I could fix the piece myself without having to order a new part. So I tried it, and I thought it worked. I put everything back together again, went to bed that night. I woke up the next morning, and I needed to use the microwave, and so I tried to turn it on, and it didn't work at all. And so I tore the microwave apart, or at least where the broken area was, and I put it back together to its original broken state in order for us to actually use the microwave until I ordered this part. You know, I thought to myself, I just spent 3 hours in the afternoon, and I easily could have concluded at that point that it was a waste of time. However, the next morning when I got up and realized it didn't work, I had another idea. I decided to change the wording of my Google search to see if I could actually one more time try and find it locally. And you know what? It worked. I was able to find a store that had 3 of these parts left. I quickly went, picked it up, and within minutes I had fixed my microwave. Now, it would have been easy for me to say, what a waste of time. That was all for nothing. Except it wasn't. I was able to figure out how my microwave worked, and by trying to fix it myself, I kept myself from ordering a part that the shipping was more than the part was worth and waiting for over a week, and I was finally able to locate it locally so that I could fix it right away. In Romans chapter 8, verse 28, Paul says this, "For those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." Now, that's a verse that some of us are familiar with if we've been in the church for a while, and we oftentimes refer to it when we go through difficult times. Paul is saying that he takes the events of our life and he works them together for good, for our growth ultimately, but for God's good and God's glory. And he surrounds that statement with 2 very important phrases. He says, "For those who love God, who have committed themselves to Jesus Christ as Savior and Lord, he's given us a purpose and a calling in life." It was Jesus in Matthew 28 who said, "Go and make disciples." That was given to every one of us. And in Matthew chapter 5, Jesus said, we are all salt and light placed in this messed up world to go and make disciples and share the hope that we have found through Jesus Christ. And what Paul the Apostle was saying in Romans 8:28 is that God takes all the events of our lives, the good, the bad, the difficulties, the trials, the weaknesses, yes, even the persecutions and the suffering, and he works them all together to accomplish his plan and his purpose. Paul knew that verse intimately. Here's the reason why. He met the resurrected Jesus Christ on his way to Damascus when he was trying to destroy the church. And it was then that Jesus Christ gave him a calling and a mission so that he would take the message of Jesus Christ to the known Gentile world. Well, at the end of Paul's life in 2 Timothy chapter 3, starting in verse 10, just days before Paul would be martyred for his faith in Jesus Christ, he tells Timothy, he says, "Timothy, you followed my teaching. You followed my conduct, how I lived my life with authenticity and integrity in following Jesus. You saw my aim or my purpose and my calling to communicate Jesus Christ to the known Gentile world. And Timothy, you saw my faith and my patience and my love and my long-suffering or endurance in the midst of trials and persecution." And then he says at the end of verse 11, he said, "Yet the Lord rescued me from all of them." Paul wasn't talking about a guarantee that no matter what we face in life, God is going to protect us physically. He was about ready to lose his life. His point was that God has called us to complete our purpose and calling to share Jesus Christ in this world. And whether it's by life or death, he is going to complete his purpose and his plan in our life. And Paul was simply saying with this phrase, God rescued me from all these things. He said, God gave me a calling to share Jesus Christ. And whether it was persecution, suffering, when I communicated the message of Christ, the gates of hell will not prevail against the church of Jesus and not prevail against the gospel message. It wasn't a waste. God protected him. And Timothy, he's called you to live in this world. It is a messed up world, but he's going to work all things together for good. He's going to take the suffering and the persecution, and he is going to accomplish his plan and his purpose in you. And you know what? If you're listening today, he's going to do the same thing for you. Your life is not a waste. He's placed you in a messed up world, and he's going to use you. He's going to work all things together for good so that he can accomplish his plan and his purpose for you to share Jesus Christ to your world in a messed up world, whether by life or by death, until he calls you home. I hope you go back and you watch the message from last week as we unpack further 2 Timothy chapter 3 and what it means to live in a messed up world. And then join us this week as we take a look at how Paul wraps up this tiny little book by telling us how we can finish well and make a lasting difference for Jesus Christ. God bless as you serve him this week.